Hi, I'm Adrian Davies from Nottingham Museums. We do consultation with a range of users historically, but this is the first time I'm embarking on a digital project, so I'm interested if there are specific issues that I need to be aware of with that. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Richard Batty. I'm a photographer based here at the Custard Factory. I do a lot of creative and performing arts photography and looking at digital ways of really getting my work out into the wider community, and also collaborations and partnerships with other people.
Mike Gogan from the Virtual Experience Company. Actually, the very first project we did was a real-time virtual reality model of Shakespeare's birthplace to enable disabled visitors to explore the upper floor, which was actually previously inaccessible to them. So it's something that we've been interested in for quite a long time. That was back in 1999, by the way.
Hi, I'm Mitra Mamazia from IC Tomorrow, and we have just launched a competition, actually, a contest called Digital Inclusion, and we work really closely with RNIB as well, so we're really kind of keen to make sure that we kind of cover those areas. And I know that RNIB are really great actually to work with. They're really keen that people don't just make accessible things, they actually make the stuff they're going to make anyway and make them accessible. So I think that's kind of their sort of way of doing things, which I think is the right way of doing it. So.
I'm Saskia Warren, and I'm Research Fellow from University of Birmingham, and we're doing a research project around connecting communities into the creative economy. So I'm here really just to see and learn what's going on around access in the creative economy.
My name's Paul Long. Pardon me. I'm from Birmingham City University. I'm here partly because I'm on the same project as Saskia here, and both fact-finding in this session, but also just to underline something, that our project about cultural intermediation and connecting people into the creative economy has within it a phrase about hard-to-reach groups, which is tended to be defined, I think, through class and ethnic groups, rather than thinking about the issues you're raising in this access thing. So this might be quite a useful reality call, I guess, about how we've thought that through.
Hello, I'm Joseph Savell. I'm the Creative Director of the Digital Heritage Hub at the University of Birmingham, and I'm here to sort of reconnect with the issues, really.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Susan Cruz. I'm an artist, and I am curating a project called the Library of Lost Books, which is a nationwide project with a group of artists. I'm also autistic, so I'm interested to be here because I'm one of your disabled 20%.
Hi, I'm Janet from Talking Birds, and I'm in here because one of the things that we're really interested in is how you start from a point of making a piece of work. When you start making a piece of work, making it from a point of it being accessible. So I guess I'm sort of interested in the creative possibilities of accessibility.
Sorry.
Deirdre Figueiredo from Crowspace, based in the Custard Factory. I've just made an instant decision about what workshop to go to, but we have a continuing interest in accessibility, and particularly around disability aesthetic.
Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Simon Whitehouse. I'm a freelance digital consultant, and I also put on open space type events and conferences, so I'm interested in...
Can you say it again? Sorry, I missed.
Yeah, I'm Simon Whitehouse. I'm freelance digital consultant. Alison's laughing because she knows me as well. And I do stuff around...
I thought you were saying something not in your name. Okay, good.
And I do stuff around open government data, but also I do work putting on open space and conference type events and bar camps, and so I'm aware that we don't particularly cater to people's needs other than them being able to come along and participate themselves, so I'm interested in some of the things that we might be able to do around that.
Cool.
I'm Hilary. My project is Be Creative. We are putting together a collaborative website for creatives to work together who would not necessarily otherwise come together, and we need to make that as accessible as possible.
I'm Katie, I'm from Sampad South Asian Arts, and I'm actually quite interested in mental disability, particularly when you're looking at digital applications. What kind of things do you need to think about to make sure that it's available to those that have trouble reading, that have short-term focus, and they're actually staring and need to engage with the digital stuff to keep their attention going?
Clayton from Sampad, again, general interest in disability and access, but we, as on top of what Katie's already said, interested in possibly developing a project looking at British Sign Language and dance.
That's great. Am I missing anybody? Yeah. Pass back.
Is it me again?
It's not a big deal if we can't get on, but it might be just more discussion.
Hi, I'm Mandy Fowler from the Rural Media Company, but I also work in a freelance capacity, and I'm currently working with Dash, Disability Arts Shropshire, on a 3-year programme that they've got working with disabled artists in 5 galleries across the West Midlands, including Bristol as well.
Okay, thanks. That's brilliant. Thank you. That's given me a really good sense of what, as well, not only who you are, but so that I'm not telling you things that you already know, or I'm going off on a tangent that's not interesting or useful. Would it help if I started with just, well, there's 3 sort of practical, 3 things. Well, one, I can tell you the market and what it's made up of and why it's important, and then I can jump a few slides and go straight to some very practical things you can do on a website, and then maybe just get a conversation going rather than, so it's not just me that's talking, because it's more about you and what's important and practical and works for you guys. But let's see if I can get it right. I'm just very quickly on the sort of deaf perspective, and I won't keep, if I mention it, it's just as an example. It's not just that that's my main focus, because the whole thing around access is about, if you get it right for as many people as possible, then you're widening it even wider than just like focusing on a disability point of view. So, and in terms of deafness, the stats are quite staggering, because it's like there's 10 million deaf people, 70,000 are BSL users. So you've got that whole thing of, particularly in terms of sign language, where BSL is a first language, whereas English is a second language, and in many cases, because BSL is a visual language, then you've got a whole of literary issues around that, even just in terms of digital and being online. But the majority of, say, young deaf kids, when they're born into hearing families, so 90% of deaf kids don't have BSL as a first language. They're more likely to have speech like me, because I learned it when I was 24. And then in terms of the population, if it's 1 in 6, if you get it right with your videos online in terms of subtitles, then you're not just opening it for the deaf market, you're opening it for others where English isn't the first language. Makes it really easy for Google Analytics. You come up more in the ratings and stuff. So it's a lot of what I like to think is that when you get it right in one sector, it's just you're making it better for everybody. Let's see. This is the stats, which some of the figures are a bit old, but that's because I haven't been able to find anything more recent. But it's quite staggering. It's like we're worth 80 billion, and that's in terms of disability market. But yet the older people market is worth 100 billion. And we're all getting older. I'm in my 40s, and already I need to get, been told I need bifocals, and it's like with my dead body, right? Okay. But I'm going to have to do something where I'm standing in the supermarket like this, trying to read the tins, and I think there's a whole big thing around this sort of visual stuff as well. But in terms of some of the other stats, which is quite staggering, is that 1 in 3, I think it's 1 in 3 people are carers. And, you know, that's quite a big figure. And, you know, then you've got a whole hidden sense of disabilities where older people acquire disabilities, but you don't necessarily consider themselves disabled. And that's where a lot of what I try to do around pesky people is just get away from it being about disability. It's about access in general. And it always comes back to the money. I mean, if we're worth that much, don't you want it? You know, that's my sort of argument on it. And just very quickly on the subtitle stuff. Let me find it. This is the other figure. How many, did I get the stats right? Yeah. So 6 million carers, it was 10% of the population. I was getting my stats wrong there. And 23% be over 65 and 20 to 33. So if you think about getting it right now, you're making it better and easier. And then especially if you build in everything from the beginning in terms of access in your briefs, then it's not as costly when you get further down the line. Suddenly you've got to do it. And there is the Equalities Act, which the Conservative government wants to get rid of quite key chunks of, which, technically speaking, any website can be pulled down if you don't comply with improving the access on it. So I can make a complaint to the Equalities Commission, and they, you know, and then it ends up, you could end up in court and stuff. And in the States, the Netflix got taken to court by the National Association of the Deaf and won. So they have got to make all their online streaming videos accessible with subtitles. And we've been campaigning with trying to get Love Film to take on the issue. But I know it's more than just, there is technical issues involved, but we need to know what they are. And it might be that it's not until like 5 years down the line that we get it, but they need to start addressing it now. Oops. Back to, I can't get the subtitles one up. Yeah, just very quick one. This is where social media really comes into play for you guys. We're using it as a platform and getting our voice. So in terms of subtitles now, the Space website, I can access the content, and then there was other various issues around accessibility. And the person leading on it actually said that basically it was an experiment, so they didn't need to make it accessible. So you can imagine how pissed off I was. And it's really frustrating because trying to have that conversation and say, look, why aren't you making it accessible? Why hasn't this come into play? And so a couple of us decided, well, we want to do something about it. So we set up Subtitles Now. So it was literally, I just set up a Facebook page, got word out, and said, we're going to do this on the 6th of June. And I was on holiday trying to get internet access, and various people were in the UK doing things as well. So, and it was really brought people together because we had 700 people join the Facebook Day, and 363 people were directly tweeting to the companies concerned to say, why aren't you doing this? And I've got to say, not one of them replied. And we used Scraper Wiki, Paul Bradshaw brilliantly pulled us together, scraped a bit of code on Scraper Wiki, so we got all the tweets that came out that day and continued. And it's just shocking that we got no response. And to me, that's like, what do we do next? But then the flip side of that is, do you get a negative reaction on using social media and you don't handle it right? I mean, you can say, I'm sorry, and let's talk about it and let's see what we can do to address it, but you might not be able to address it. But at least you have that engagement. That's better than completely ignoring it and getting angry rant text tweets from people, and you know, it just sort of escalates, and then people say, no point in going there, they're just, you know, they're just rubbish. And, you know, you sort of want to turn that around, because at the end of the day, it's a market and it's money, and you want them coming in your doors, you know. So yeah, that was Subtitles Now, and I'm going to see if I can get...
Can I ask a question?
Yeah. Go on. Oh, sorry. I should know better. Sorry. Is it on?
Yeah, it's working now. Great. Just on the social media thing, sorry to interrupt your presentation. Before you move on to talk about the rest of it, just want to talk about the social media things. What, in your opinion, works really badly? What have you come across that you thought was a really bad example of practice?
A really bad practice? Oh gosh, where do I start? Let me come up with a good one.
Any example?
The Doctor Who one was a really good one because of how they did it, really, how they reacted and how they dealt with it on the day. But what I've got to say that they did do is that they took on board all the issues. It took them a bit of time, but what they did do is they used the same person who did the audio description for the TV series to do the audio description for the tour. They allowed extra time for people to go through. You could go through a second time if you wanted from visual impairment point of view or any other access. Delicate, that's her Twitter name actually, went down as a guest and I went with her and we went through the whole exhibition with the head of BBC Worldwide Branding and just really told them, look, this is great, this isn't, this works, this doesn't, here's what you need to think about. And I think that, on a very basic level, doesn't cost you very much money. And it gives recognition of what the issues are. So that was one. Let me get one called car insurance. A deaf woman signed up for car insurance online. She lives in Preston, actually, and sent them a message saying, well, what do I do about breakdown cover? Have you got a text messaging service? Because I can't phone. Explained why. They cancelled her car insurance. So this all went on a big, massive rant on Facebook. They were ignoring her emails. So I said, look, do you want me to just put the whole of this up on as a blog post? So, and then I let them know it was on. They had to go at me for copyright infringement for using their logo. So it's there. I did a blog post about why they told me to take their logo down. And they completely did a U-turn and reinstated the car insurance, but also put in the breakdown cover service nationally. And IKEA and Empath Cinemas, both on induction group issues, sorted it out. And IKEA's place, they put the induction group mic at crutch level under the till. So I don't know how anybody's supposed to have a conversation like that. And there was a combination of that and the fact that the machine for putting in your card and putting in the PIN number was completely screwed in, so you couldn't take it out. So they completely flipped around and sorted it, but they also gave the person concerned a £2,000 sofa. So, you know, there was compensation issues as well to address. So for me, that public way of doing things, you've got to instantly react, because otherwise it completely blow up. I haven't got the slide on here, but Proud Galleries in London, Dee Burkett, who's a Guardian journalist, tweeted that her daughter had been refused access as a wheelchair user. She went off to wherever she was going off for the weekend, and it completely went viral on Twitter. So I worked out at one point it reached over 80,000 people, just constant retweets. And people were contacting Proud Galleries on Twitter. They'd only been on there a fortnight, saying, what are you doing? This is outrageous. And it completely blew up in their faces, and they were apologising constantly to everybody. And it's just like, and then he put up his text mobile number, and I just texted him and said, look, you're not dealing with this very well. How about you do X, Y, and Z? So I ended up doing disability awareness training for them and just doing very practical, looking at the issues. So, I mean, that was good. I got some work out of it, but that wasn't what my intention of contacting them, because I think Twitter, you can go off on a real tangent, and I think that's really unfair on whoever the poor sod that's behind the Twitter accounts having to deal with the issues. So yeah, there's a few sort of bad examples. Culturally, you tend to be better at it, but I think the big issues is the websites and what you produce in digital content. You're very good at doing it for physical venues, but in terms of when it goes to being online, you don't have the information that you need, which is really important. So, yeah. I mean, you have said about common thing coming out is, I mean, there's the issues. Have I covered enough on the issues, do you think? Is there anything else you really want to know? In terms of, let me see if I can get the slides up. Sorry about this, it's not, let's see if I can escape it. Oh. Where's it gone? Right, here we go. I thought this might just be useful to put it in context of usage of by digital. Is that this is the Oxford Internet Survey. This is a 2011 one. They did one in 2009. It was the first time I'd come across it. It's really, really useful because it tells you about digital exclusion, and it says disability is the main cause of digital exclusion. And I think the stats are really striking because 72% of the population are online, but it hasn't in 78 now, but it's only increased from 36% to 41% from 2007, and it's only gone up very slowly. So I think on one hand it's great to know that you can do all this wonderful thing with technology, but on the other hand there is a big chunk of disabled people that are not online. So you need to think about, if you are going to use digital, you could use it in your spaces or in your exhibitions or whatever, and then you can still have the same experience that you would be if you've got that mobile app. You can still have that technology, you know, but you're just in the space rather than being at home or on a website. So that's the Oxford Internet Survey. And I'll put up the link onto Twitter. And that was just about how people are using it at the moment. So being at home is a big percentage, whereas, and then it sort of dips on a mobile device in terms of, so, you know, it's a really useful one to sort of start with. If you're going to run with digital, you might as well know where your audience is at, you know. Let's see if, I've got some very practical things on websites that I know I'm pitching to come out, but I don't want to, I'll just tell you some sort of simple key ones to do. I looked at the DirectGov one. Okay, that's changing to the new design and layout, but this sort of thing happens a lot on websites. You can increase the button, but you need to be aware that it only increases text to a certain size. So I come up, Mark, I can really zoom in. So if you want to be able to let people do that, make sure that you've got the design of it laid out so that the text isn't going to run over into each other in terms of the boxes. You know, and that's a sort of key one that happens, as you can see from DirectGov, but that happens quite a lot on websites. I've got some stuff on SlideShare as well, which has these slides in, so I can share that with you as well. And then the other one, if I can get it up. This is just an example of what my site looks like in terms of the contrast. And I actually got a really fab web developer, Laura Whitehead. She's on Twitter as Little Laura, and she just did all the coding, and she did extra coding to do my form so that you could fill it in, and then you could edit the form if you wanted. And so got round things at WordPress, because my site's all just on WordPress. And from the visual impairment point of view, a lot of people prefer that complete contrast of yellow text on black, and they really want to be able to zoom in, and it isn't just about putting it to 18 point. Some people need to really magnify it, and they won't be using screen readers or the browser tools. They will just be using what's on your site, and that was something that I picked up when I was doing the research. Yeah.
Is it acceptable to advise people just to use Control Plus to
Yeah, anything that makes it quick. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just wondering if it's acceptable to advise people to use Control Plus just to zoom the whole page.
Absolutely. I mean, so long as you've got a page that has an accessibility page and you really explain what you do as shortcuts, don't do what the BBC does and the Space website and send you off to my way page on the BBC website. Don't send them off your site. It's just not worth it. It's too frustrating. You just go, well, why am I going here? And you've suddenly got to navigate a whole new website design and layout. So you can just have very practical pointers of what's the shortcuts, how to change things with the browser settings, and just make it as easy as possible so they're using what's on the on they'll know their laptop, but they won't necessarily know how to change the browser settings. But if you've got something at the top like I had with the AAA, that box, you click on it and it asks you what contrast you want to change, so it's got high contrast, and then you can just keep going back and changing it back and forward as to what suits. And a good thing is if you can really zoom in, like, I mean, I got that as high as I could, and people will want to move the mouse around to read what's on the screen at a really, really high text size. Let's see if I've got another one. Yeah, my favourite one's the alt tags. They're really useful for giving descriptions, and it can be, you want the image to connect with what's on the text. So if somebody's got a screen reader, they're going to be tabbing along, and it just says, something random like picture of a horse. I mean, it's got no context to what the text is, so it's been useful to link it, and it takes a little bit of time, but once you get into it, you're just adding it, and it's there. And there's a really good example of this. Is a cartoonist, Dave Lupton. He's on the internet. It's Crippen, Crippen, and he does really detailed descriptions of his cartoons. So he would say things like that image with the image contains red background. There's a telescope or whatever you call them, shaped in the shape of a heart, and at the top right-hand corner is an apple. And that's a really better description than saying Shropshire Health and Wellbeing Strategy Consultation. You just thought, well, what's in the picture? I've got this on SlideShares, but it's just really useful, sort of practical stuff. You can't, and it just turns out you can't get everybody online, so just think of other ways of doing it. Train people. So the more you know, the more you can challenge your web developers, whoever's doing your apps and what have you. And because they won't necessarily have that knowledge, and you're going to have to tell them how to go about it. And I mean, this was taken from a presentation that was to do with more like local government stuff, but some of it's relevant. And just make open source tools, which if I can get a video up, I can show you how the universal subtitle works. Would that be useful? Yeah. Okay. They've just changed their name to Amara. This was funded by Mozilla Foundation, and you can subtitle up to 6 languages, and it's completely collaborative, so you can have 3 people working on it at the same time. And I'll play the video, which is really great because you won't need to know the sound. Right. Oops. Oh, do you not put subtitles on it? I can't believe I haven't put subtitles on this. That is so typical. Right, let's escape that. I'll get the other one up. There's my presentation. Right, I've got a video on here. If I can get it to play. Where's it gone? Oh, tech pill. Okay. Right, I'll bring it up. I've got it on here. Right, I'll just skip through. Here we go. Oh, it's doing it again, sorry. Right. Complete tech fail on this one. With what they do with the subtitles is if you go to embed a film, I'm going to grab one. This is take the gadget show, but if I was to do, let's share. You just copy the video link in the share, go to Amara subtitles, put in the link, press subtitle, and basically it just scrapes it across. Then I've got subtitle me, and then you can see there's all sorts, every single language going. So I click English, press continue, and then they've got, at every stage they've got a video, so it will talk you through every single stage. And you can play the video while you're doing it as well if you need a reminder. So if I just click continue, the video comes up, and basically you just type in speaker, and then it could be, and then you do that, and then you can just play, and then you can add another one. And then if you go, once you've got all the text, you can just do all the text first, and then you can just literally have a document open and just cut and paste. And then you just take next, sync, and then literally you're playing it. And then if I know that I need that to go back, I just make that across. And then you can just skip back 4 seconds. So and it could be that that runs over, and then I play, stop, and then I'm going to that one, and then I'm just dragging it over, and then I could just go back to the beginning again. So it goes like that. I can then just skip back, restart this right to the beginning, and then it literally just syncs the subtitles in. It's just really as simple as that. And then you can just repeat the steps until you've got it synced, and then you are literally just if I go back, you're just literally moving these boxes till you get it synced with the sound. That's it, really. Not more to it, to be honest. So, and it's free, and I recommend you sign in before you start doing it, because otherwise you'll be like me and you'll lose your video. And they just keep a copy on their website, but you can sign up for a private account and enhanced account and stuff. So yeah, that's subtitles, and it's just because it's free, it's just means it saves you a lot of money at the end of the day. You asked about. I thought it might be really nice if I can put you on the spot.
Put me on the spot?
Yeah. Because Talking Birds did this brilliant project where you had subtitles live played on an iPhone or a smartphone during the performance, and it wasn't stage text, it wasn't BSL interpretation, it wasn't having to do anything with a major big cost attached. But it'd be really nice to, because you sort of flipped it around a bit with the whole thing about making it more accessible for deaf people.
Yeah, well, basically,
Mike.
It's because
Mike.
Thank you. It came about from a sort of... it is on. I'm deliberately not putting it too close to my face. It all came about because we're very aware as a small-scale theatre company doing touring that there was very little possibility for making that kind of touring work accessible, partly because if you're touring around to different venues and you're only there for one night or 2 nights, the venues won't necessarily have the infrastructure, if you like, and it's incredibly expensive to tour a sign language interpreter or captioning. We tried out captioning in a couple of shows. We managed to borrow a captioner and a unit, but it's just not something that we could really afford. So we started working on, once kind of iPhones were invented, we were kind of like, oh, hang on a second, maybe you could deliver subtitles to people's phones, and then surely that makes everything much easier and cheaper, and you can kind of do it as a sort of always-on thing rather than just having one captioned show or one sign language interpreted show. So we've kind of got a prototype thanks to Arts Council money, and we're kind of just working on the 3rd version of that at the moment. To do subtitling and audio description, deliver audio description to people's sort of earphones as well, and use it for a million other kind of interesting things. It's kind of one of those things you want to be able to put it into people's hands so they can kind of experiment with it, make pieces of work, play with it, make pieces of work, and perhaps then make things accessible almost accidentally from the beginning because you're kind of making the piece of work using this tool, so you don't have to think about it as an add-on, which too many people kind of do. So, yeah, it's incredibly difficult to find funding for it, though, which is why just hearing that, I just thought, oh, I wonder if we could tap into that one. But yeah, so you can come and find out a bit more from me if you want. But hopefully, you'll be able to kind of make it available to people in the next year or so. Is that enough, Alison?
Yeah, no, that's good, because, I mean, for me, when you're doing something that's out of a box and you're leading on it, that's great, because then it's like, well, we don't have to keep saying things, and it's nice to have that the other way around, and also you've been a really good perspective in it, whereas we're just going, we want access, and not really necessarily knowing how to have the access. I was going to try and bring up a document that, I can't find it now, I'll have to check. We had a checklist of, we got the 150 issues that came out of Gordini consultation, and with Gordini it's about having an access database online. Unfortunately it's down, so I can't quite show you it, but we're doing some work on it. And the whole thing was, well, what do disabled people want out of cultural organisations? And the big thing that they said was they want accurate information. They wanted to know when events were happening and when they were accessible. So if it was an audio description performance, they wanted that information, not the day before the events happened, but they wanted that information in advance. And I mean, I happened to find out that there was a subtitle screening of Skyfall at the cinema because I happened to go in and talk to the manager, and he said, oh, it's on tonight. So it was a bit of a scrabble around going, I really want to see this film. I haven't been seen to cinema for about 4 years because I keep missing all the subtitled events. And, you know, so you want to be able to go out and see these things, but unless you know about them, how are you going to go? When we consulted with Gordini, we had 40 disabled people came along one day, and we had 2 user experience consultants, one of whom was Paul Annette, who became the lead developer for the changing what was the Alpha Gov and then becoming a government website. And it was like, well, we usually do user experience testing with 2 people in a day, and he got 40. So we really made them work. And the thing that we did was that we sat in front of the computer and said, well, what do you look at? And just observed, and it was having a conversation and picking up what. So you're doing it in a natural time. You're not saying, like, we want you to do this, X, Y, and Z. It was like, well, what do you like to go and see? What's important to you? And then one of them went through the process of trying to book seats, only to discover that you have to phone up because you can't book it online. So, you know, it's a way of trying to flip it around, so make it accessible all the way through, rather than go, right, you need to phone us, you know, when you get so far, and that's it. So the other big thing was knowing how to get there, and finding it difficult to find the information on the page itself, and the information being trustworthy. So they were finding that the information was there, but then it wasn't quite right, and didn't know who to contact. So, you know, it always comes down to the very practical things people want to know. And the whole thing around engaging, we worked with Alan McLean from Working Parts, who had direct contact with people. So that trust was already there. So I didn't have to go out scrambling trying to find people. He brought them to us. And in return, we gave them vouchers. We gave them, if they wanted to go to a theatre of a choice or go to an art event, we would pay for the ticket. So we gave some reward, and the whole thing is we weren't asking for that information for free. We couldn't afford to pay them, which you'd got. If you're going to do user experience consultation, it costs 50 quid an hour, and that's what you should be paying people. But I know budgets are tight, you don't have that money. But knowing that you can go to have an experience in a theatre and it's free, and you get a glass of wine when you arrive and you're met by the manager, I mean, I wouldn't say no, you know. And one of the people said she'd happily do anything for a glass of wine. So, you know, people just want it doesn't have to be like a big expense. It's just appreciating that you're getting that information from them. And the other thing we discovered in the West Midlands, there's a group of about 30 visually impaired people who go out to culture events, and one of them runs the online forum which brings people together, and then they just decide and go out en masse. You know, where are they? You know, it's like they're hidden somewhere, and you just, you know, you don't necessarily know they want to come to your events. So that whole communication stuff is really quite important. So there were sort of the main things that we found out about, and then it was like broken down into how they got to places, and they want to know things like, what's the closing time? What time does things finish? Because they need to get home and they've got to arrange a transport and it's going to be dark. And they don't want to go a certain route because it involved going under a dark tunnel. So, you know, this sort of stuff's quite, you know, we all want to get home safe, so, you know, it applies to everybody. Is there anything in particular that I'm missing out or want to talk about? Because I'm conscious I'm doing a lot of talking. Where's the mic gone? The mic gone.
Also, just as a kind of a place to kind of get some sort of insights into making apps and things accessible, RNIB has really good guidance on their website, and if you actually get in touch with them and want any help, they're really, really good. So I can't stress that enough, really. RNIB, yeah. So I mean, even if you just ring them up and say, you know, I'm making an app, I'm doing something digital, you know, do you have guidance? They will supply you with that stuff, and they're really up for having meetings as well. So definitely rely on them.
Hello, can I ask what would be the equivalent organisation to go to for physical access guidelines? I've heard of RNIB and they're fantastic, but...
It's sort of an interesting one that I think, I'm not sure because the whole thing around physical access can vary from arthritis You can have various degrees of mobility, right through to like maybe scope with cerebral palsy. So I think at the end of the day, you just get a core group of user testers on board, and you get them on board at the beginning, so that when you map it out on a paper trail, you then build all the way through. And a really good thing I got told was that you'll get 20%, from 20% of your effort, you'll get 80% of the knowledge of what you need. That's what he's saying, sort of digital terms, and that's really stuck in my mind because I keep seeing it. So, but you can work with people like me or others that I could put you, if you want more local, because then that way you've got people in your area and you can build a relationship with them. They get paid to do this user experience testing, so they're just talking about their impairments or what's important and what they want from it, and then you get the really valuable info right at the beginning. So, yeah, does that help? I mean, in terms of the user testing, well, one of the things you could do is you can buy these kits where, like, it's different level of impairments in terms of glasses. I've seen one woman at a conference explain access in terms of getting a couple of elastic bands and wrapping it around her fingers and saying, right, now, touch your screen and see what you can do. And so it can help to know what it's like by doing that yourself. And you can buy, I think the glasses kit costs about 150 quid. Vodafone Mobile Monday, they do workshops around mobile accessibility. And they did one earlier in the year where they got a couple of us to talk about what it was like from a point of view of access. So in terms of visual impairment with mobile apps, how do you increase it? Will it work with the screen reader, with the voice, the voiceover on the mobile? How do you know what button you're pressing? What's the colour contrast? You know, so it's the same thing sort of applying away for web as it does with mobile. It's just that your navigation, you're keeping it quite simple in terms of getting a lot of effort. But I use Foursquare to check in, and it's like, and you know, my eyesight's about average, so you know, the colour contrast and stuff like that can be quite important. And the other thing is around, if you're saying around physical disabilities, I know that everybody says about the iPad. I know somebody's just bought like a Galaxy, and she can't physically touch it because she hasn't got enough strength to press onto the pad. So it's like, that's like, well, what do you do next? So, you know, you can't make it, you can make things as accessible as possible, but you can't tick the boxes for everybody. You can just make it for the widest possible use, really.
Just a factual check, really. The stats that you put up, is that people who are registered disabled, or how have they compiled those stats to include all the other people that probably are disabled but aren't registered disabled? Or are those statistics just registered disabled people?
It's funny saying that. The stats have come in different ways because you can't register disabled anymore since they brought in when they brought in the DDA, Disability Discrimination Act. The only person that can tell you you're disabled is a judge in a court of law when you go up in a discrimination case. In terms of the stats, they've done it from a combination of looking at employment figures, people registered unemployed, and the sort of general consensus tends to be that most populations, it's around 18 to 20% of the population that's disabled. Finland's higher for some reason, it's 35. And in developing worlds, it's quite high as well. America, it's 18%. But it's the stats are a bit old, so it's hard to know how you catch that up with current. And it tends to be, I sort of rely on whatever charity puts out. So the RNIB, Action on Hearing Loss stats around deafness, I just sort of use their stats because they've done their research. I mean, it can be broken down into more general, like if you wanted to do in terms of cerebral palsy or young people who are wheelchair users, but you tend to then, you don't really want to that level, but it's just in general terms.
Just because it's probably a lot more people than the statistics actually show, that's all.
Yeah, the best stuff I got on in terms of what it meant in terms of economic terms is that the Office for Disability Issues, I think that's the idea, I'm getting the term wrong, they did the legacy of 2012, and they worked out that 20% of business was lost because the services weren't accessible or the website was inaccessible. So in terms of market, it was quite a big chunk, really. And then they just said the same stats, that we were worth 80 billion.
Just as a kind of, is that okay?
Can you say that again?
The 3 themes that we've got for the IC Tomorrow contest, just quickly go through them.
Yeah, feel free, because
I just think it might be interesting for people just to kind of hear. I mean, we've been tweeting about it, but you might not have kind of necessarily had a chance to look. So we've got 3 themes. Theme 1 is around sensory assistance, using smartphones to assist older people and people with sensory disabilities, and that's our partner is University of York. Theme 2 is around inclusive media, which is creating a new digital reader and search tool for newspapers and magazines, and our partner is RNIB. And theme 3, I'm just looking at the brief, is accessible Internet of Things, which I'm really interested in myself, actually. And that's our partner is Scope, and that's kind of really, I suppose, looking at something cross-platform web app that can be used to go beyond control of basic home functions while remaining accessible to disabled people. So this is actually 144K sort of pot overall, and it's split between the challenges. So anybody who's got kind of ideas that they want to kind of put through, I would definitely kind of tell you to go for it. So yeah.
Who's it aimed at, Mitra?
Who's it aimed at? What, the competition? It's, digital, I suppose, developers, but then, if you pull together a consortium of various different people to actually pull together an idea, that's fine too. I mean, most of IC Tomorrow, obviously, we fund digital kind of companies, and what would happen with this is you would be partnered up with, for instance, Scope to create that prototype, and then to kind of look beyond that and see what else can be done with it. So. No, we've actually got a briefing event coming up, which I think I put up. I don't know what the date for that is, so if you're interested, it's definitely worth either going to the briefing event. The deadline is the 8th of January for the actual applications. And I'm just looking on here for the briefing event. I think I put something out. I'll have to check on the briefing dates. But if you actually go on to the Connect, oh, there it is. Brilliant. You've got it up.
That'll help.
Excellent. So yeah, so that's it there.
But you have to register interest to be able to apply by certain.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really.
I can't understand that one.
The first test of anything to do with TSB is if you can register on Connect. I mean, it is actually quite easy. You're pretty much there. So register on Connect, and then register for the IC Tomorrow group, and then go into that, and you'll be able to download the full brief. If you go further down there, click on that page. It will say click here for where the little blue, just underneath there. So.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then I think at the bottom of there is a brief. So it goes into further detail about each one of those challenges where it says brief. Sorry, I mean, the website is annoying, just where it says brief, just underneath key documents, a bit further down.
All right, let me have a look.
Yeah, our website is not very friendly, so yeah, apologies for that. Yeah, contest documents.
There's a few of them, I know.
Yeah. So the contest brief, that's the one, yeah. And it goes into detail about every single one of those challenge areas.
You could point back that if somebody visually impaired was to try and read that, it'd be
You know, do you know, we're actually in the process of changing the look of the entire thing, including our logo. Please ignore the I See Tomorrow banner there that doesn't make any sense. But that's all getting changed. So definitely have a read of that. And there is a briefing session. I think it's next week. I'm not sure about.
It's the 29th. It's the 29th.
29th, yeah.
The briefing, and they're doing a webinar as well, so you can join online.
Yeah, you don't have to be there in person, but.
Yeah, cool. I'm going to quickly show you this company. Where is it? Ribbit. These guys, they did Ribbit based in Brighton and did the mobile app for Tesco, and really cool, and managed to meet them 2 weeks ago for the first time. And this was like they were doing a sort of interface to use in terms of the touchscreen mobile. So the idea that was that you did no more than like sort of three button interface to really simplify it down. So I can't find anything else online to demo it, but it's worth knowing that there's, you know, companies like that out there. And their Ribbit and their website is ribot.co.uk, and the project's Freedom. I'm quite conscious. I know they've said this is to go on to 5, but it doesn't have to. You know, I mean, is there anything that you just want to discuss? Because I'm quite conscious I'm doing a lot of talking. I know it's the end of the day and it's Friday. At least it's not raining. I hope it isn't. Yeah.
Thanks. You're talking about accessibility of websites, but is there something to think about with mobile devices and accessibility issues around how accessible information is on a mobile phone or a tablet computer?
Yeah. If you're making it accessible in terms of OS X for iPhone, they've got developer guidelines around the accessibility. I suppose the iPhone's one of the better ones. But to bear in mind is that, you know, there could be other applications that somebody will have on, like, say, their Android mobile phone. And there's actually a blog post by Dara Kate about that. I'm just trying to bring it up. Yeah. She did a really good blog post called Visual Impairment versus the iPhone. And she talked, all the way through it, she talks about the different settings that she, and what she got. So she was saying that she, like big fonts, although useful, don't play nicely with some apps. And you can't scale the font up. And, you know, she goes through it all and just says different apps that she downloaded. And I think it was one of the, it's generated other conversations where people have been saying it's taken them 6 months to find a mobile phone that works for them. So, I mean, I'll share the link, but visual impairment versus a smartphone. Because if you go into mobile phone shops, they don't tell you what access features they've got on them. So in terms of making, in terms of the platform, is, you know, you need to think, it's things about the pressure of touch screen, how many buttons, the size of the buttons, the contrast, and in many ways the sort of things to do with web and print sort of go over on in terms of online. Sometimes the applications don't work so that, you know, you've got that voiceover and you might be having a video playing, but then how do you then add the, you know, you've got to think about the layers that you add to that, whether you're going to include subtitles. There is a really good, if I'm going to bring it up, let me see, film Victoria games. Where is it? Right, this is a really good, oops, that wasn't supposed to happen. Making games more accessible. Yeah, there's a games accessibility interest group online, and the Film Victoria is the first one to produce guidelines around gaming. But there's just different things. There's things about where you put the buttons on the screen, whether you can interchange, and a lot of it is about the setting features. So if you get the setting features right, and then you've got the flexibility with whatever you're doing with the app, then that makes a difference. So being able to put the sound on and off easily, you know, because sometimes you'll have this music will start straight away, and then you're on a train and you're like me, completely oblivious that the whole train's gone, what's that, you know. Or even just in terms of the colour contrast, or the if you can move the buttons around into different parts of the screen. And so yeah, I thought the guidelines were on this bit. I can send the links out as well. I've got a few of them, and there is a portal in the UK that are looking at whole things around mobile apps and games and what to do around on access. So there's some really straightforward things, but it always goes back down to your developers are going to need to know this, and they're not necessarily going to have that knowledge. They're just going to go, I'm making this cool product for you, and you're going, but what about this? And they go, no, don't matter about that. You know, it's... But I'll dig out the guidelines. But the Film Victoria is the first one to do guidelines around access and digital, to my knowledge. Because Arts Council's digital strategy says level A1 compliant, and that's like the minimum you can do. So, yeah, not too good.
Are the Bobby or W3C testing sites, are they still relevant? Are they still around? Still working?
Yeah, I mean, W3C guidelines still exist, but if you read it, it's like, you just sort of, right. You just don't want to go there, you know, because they've got like AAA guidelines, and then they call it something else, and then you try to work out what does it mean between the two. There is a really useful there's an event called Accessibility On Conference. It's happened every year in London. I'm one of the founder members. And there's various bits of info on different stuff around digital access on there that might be useful too. And that's held every year. And I'm going to be running a cultural accessibility on conference at Future Everything. Yes, just got the go ahead 2 days ago with them. So I'm putting in a funding bid to Arts Council. So the thing for me, and I suppose, is to ask you guys, would that be useful to have an on-conference where you could just have a whole range of aspects in terms of digital access being talked about? Yeah, you got one thumbs up. So yeah, please let me know if you really think this is a good idea, because I need to make Arts Council think, yes, it is a good idea. So that would just be one day, and the idea would be that you just pitch what session you want to talk about or what you want discussed. You get a show of hands and people just turn up and you have a big conversation and see where it goes. Because what I'd like to see happen is that Arts Council has a set of proper, clear guidelines in terms of digital, and they pay for it within their budgets as well. So if you apply to Arts Council now, you can put in the access costs separately. And I think that's quite important. You should do it on a digital as well. But the Accessibility On Conference is completely free. They put up all sorts of resources. It's 2010. The 2010 focus was on just motor impairment in terms of cognitive issues. So it's, you know, we've done different things, so it's really worth having a look at this site. And if you're on Twitter, if you use the hashtag A11Y, loads of stuff will come up about digital access. And And then there is an e-accessibility forum under Department of Culture, Media and Sport, and that's made up of individuals. So there is some good stuff out there. Yeah. I'm not sure if I answered your question or not, Clayton. Is that all right? Okay. Anything else? I think everybody's tired out. Thank you. It's the first time I've done this, so I wasn't sure